The aim of modern science and the aim of ancient Buddhism are diametrically opposed to each other. Modern science aims at prolonging life and prolonging or increasing or gaining more and more pleasures. Buddhism, the ancient Buddhism, aims at non-prolonging our life hereafter. That means aims at no more birth hereafter. That is why at the time of the Buddha, when his disciples get enlightened, they go and report to the Buddha, not saying I have got enlightened. They say, Kina Jati. There is no rebirth for me. That shows indirectly the disciple is enlightened. Thus, the main aim of Buddhism is ending living hereafter. Because Buddhism sees life as a source of misery, a source of suffering, a source of pain. Modern science, on the other hand, is aware the miseries of life, and the science wants to cover up those miseries, those worries, those tensions by increasing the sensory pleasures, inventing, making more and more gadgets, more and more instruments to increase our pleasures of the senses. That means things that can please our eye, things that can please our ear, things that can please our nose, things that can please our tongue, things that can please our body, things that can please our mind. Thus, the aim of modern science is getting more and more happiness, more and more pleasure, more and more enjoyment. Enjoyment means sensory enjoyments, not spiritual enjoyments, not the spiritual delight. Science is based on physics. Modern science can be called a physical science, deals with the matter. Buddhism, on the other hand, deals with the spirit. Spirit is nothing but our mind. Mind is the entire world that we experience. According to Buddhism, we are the world. And in fact, we can say, I am the world and the world is me. That is what is meant by the Buddha's revealing at the Rohitassa Sutta, where he says, the entire world that we experience is within our physical body, which is about 6 feet. Vyamatta kalebere panyapemi lokancha. It means we can experience only our sensory experiences as reflected in our mind. We can see things that are created by our ear, by our eye and reflected in our mind. Sounds created by our ear and reflected in our mind, and so on. As these sensory organs are very limited in their capacities, they cannot reflect the true nature of things as they are. Therefore, ancient Buddhism aims at seeing things as they are. And that is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana Dassana. Yatha means as they are. Bhuta means as they happen to be. Jnana Dassana means knowing by seeing. Seeing is knowing. Seeing things as they are. The basic triple nature that the enlightened can see are called anicca, dukkha, anatta. Anicca means everything is active, dynamic, in action. Anything in action is changing its position, its shape, its form again and again. That is transformation. Anicca is nothing but the universal energy. Energy is not a thing but a constant creativity, a constant action. And that we can refer to as universal dynamism. Universal energy is nothing but the universal dynamism. The transformation of energy is referred to in Buddha's teaching as dukkata, titassa anyatatta bhavisati. And that is very often referred to as viparinama dukkha. Transformation, changing. Because of that transformation, Buddha says, nothing can retain, no one can retain a permanent identity. Everything born to decay and die. Therefore, we can't retain anything permanently, indefinitely. Everything has to end. Everything is controlled by time and space. There is space and time in the entire universe, entire physical world. Anything to exist, it requires certain type, amount of space. And for anything to stay, it takes a certain period of time. That shows things in this physical world are limited by time and space. The dimensions of space and the dimension of time. Science sees 3 dimensions of space which we can measure the space. Length, breadth and height. And to that, Albert Einstein added a 4th dimension called time. Duration which a thing can exist or being can exist. As that existence is limited and subject to decay, sickness and death, Buddha realized no sensual enjoyments can be pleasurable and pleasant forever. Everything is born to decay and die. Therefore, we want to find out whether there is any thing that is not born, that is not done, that is not manifested, that is not composed. In the Tati Nibbana Sutta, he refers to nirvana as ajatam, abhutam, akatam, asankatam. Ajatam means not born. Abhutam means not happened. Akatam means not done. Asankatam means not composed. He thought, as everything is born to decay and die, they are out to be the opposite of it. Because we are living in a dualistic world. When there is light, there is darkness. When there is height, there is shortness. When something is tall, something is short. When something is good, something else is bad. And so on. In the entire world, we have happiness and unhappiness. Things are opposite to each other, therefore, if everything is changing, there must be something not changing. And here you also realize all changes that we experience are mental, not external. We visualize it as external because that is the reflection created by our sense organs. But actually, what changes, what gives us suffering are mental images that are created in our mind. Then you want to find out what happens when the mind is free from all those mental creations. Mental creations are done by thinking process. Thinking and feeling. Thinking is always associated with feeling. We think of things that we like, we think of things that we dislike, and we think of things that we are not clear about, that we are ignorant of, that we don't know what to know about it. He referred to these three aspects of the mind as raga, dosa, moha. Getting attached to things pleasant is called raga. Resenting things that are unpleasant is called dosa. And ignorance of things, the reality of things, is called moha. And he says, when there is no attachment, when there is no resentment, when there is no ignorance through inattentiveness, that means when we can face things as they really are and do not think of them, there cannot be unhappiness, any disturbance of the mind. Therefore, he referred to this ultimate goal called nirvana as sunyata, void, emptiness. It is empty of all formations. And that nirvana is not outside us, it is inside us. Inside us means within our own mind. When our mind is free from thinking and feeling, when it is void, there is an eternal bliss that is not created. There is complete silence in the mind. Silence is not created. Sound is created. Transformation is created, non-transformation is not created, not done. Now, when there are no creations, there is a supreme bliss because there is no tiredness in enjoying or suffering. According to Buddha, both the suffering and the enjoyment are really suffering. When we enjoy, we suffer mentally, we suffer physically. That is why if you enjoy dancing, we get tired of dancing after some time. If we enjoy singing, we get tired of singing. If we enjoy eating, we get tired of eating. If we enjoy walking, we get tired of walking. That means any beginning has an ending. Therefore, according to him, non-enjoyment of sensory pleasures is the real bliss. And he referred to suffering in his fourth noble truth as dukkha, cause of suffering as samudaya, dukkha samudaya, ending of suffering as dukkha nirodha, and the method of ending suffering as dukkha nirodha gamani patipada. In this way, there is a similarity between the aim of the science and modern science and the ancient Buddhism. Modern science also tries to end the human suffering. For example, they suffer due to sickness. They try to discover and invent different methods of ending our sicknesses. We suffer when our life is not prolonged, when there is old age, and they try to find out means of preventing old age and preventing death. And all those aims are temporary. Because as I mentioned earlier, whatever that is effected physically has a beginning as well as an end. Nothing can last long in this. But the emptiness that Buddha speaks of, the voidness of mind that the Buddha speaks of, can last eternally. It has no beginning, it has no decay, and it has no ending death. Birth is called jati, decay is called jara, sickness is called vyadi, and death is called marana. Everything physical is affected by these four aspects, and they are called suffering, dukkha. They are the examples. But given these examples as suffering, Buddha in his very first sermon called Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta says, suffering is nothing but our thinking. Science feeds the thinking, providing things that are pleasurable, providing means of pleasure, means of enjoyment, means of happiness. But as they are physical means, nothing can retain forever. Everything is physical, is born to decay and die. That is the basic principle of the physical world. Buddha realized we suffer mentally when we are attached to things that are pleasurable. Now, science provides things that are pleasurable. But the Buddha's teaching is going in the opposite direction. Don't get attached to things pleasurable. Therefore, science aims at getting more and pleasurable things. Ancient Buddhism aims at getting rid of more and things that are pleasurable. Getting rid of means not destroying them, not being attached to them. Non-attachment. Thus, modern science provides means of attachment, and ancient Buddhism provides means of detachment. And that detachment is not physical but mental. Ancient Buddhism directs our mind to see the reality of things. As I mentioned earlier, the basic reality of everything in this universe is anicchata, dukkhata, anattata. Everything is dynamic, therefore everything is changing from moment to moment, and anattata, there is nothing can retain a permanent identity. When we realize that, we do not get extremely attached to things that are pleasant. We can enjoy them without attachment. We do not resent things are unpleasant. We can remove them at the present moment. In fact, Buddhism aims at living only in the present moment, here and now. Abeywickrama is here, seeing here. Seeing means becoming aware of the present things here and here. Sanjittikam is now. Not thinking of future that is not born. not thinking of the dead past that is already dead and gone, no more to be reborn. Only living thing is the present moment, and that is also instant. We can't retain it. It appears to disappear then and there. We can be only aware of it. Even when there is a pleasant sensation in our mind, we should not get attached to it according to Buddhism, because it is born to decay and die and disappear. They appear to disappear. Both the pleasant sensation and unpleasant sensations appear to disappear then and there. Let the nature does its duty. Let we not be disturbed by things pleasant and unpleasant. That is, not using our sense organs to be attached to things. But the modern science provides a different ways of being attached to things. That is why models of every modern gadget change. It may be a car, it may be a van, it may be a motorcycle, it may be a radio, it may be a TV. They are always changing. It may be clothes. They are changing their shape and size and pattern from moment to moment to make them more attractive. Attraction is the aim of scientific findings. Distraction is the aim of Buddhist investigation into the reality of things. Thus, we can say modern science is leading human beings in one direction, and the ancient Buddhism leads human beings in the opposite direction. Modern science wants to increase our pleasures. Ancient Buddhism wants to decrease our pleasures, especially attachment to pleasures. That is why even Prince Siddhartha, even before realizing or attaining nirvana, discarded all the pleasures of his royal life and went into jungle in search of spiritual bliss. Spiritual bliss, according to Buddha's teaching, is eternal. It is not having things, but not having things. It's not having things, not having things. Not getting attached to things, but getting detached from things. Science, as I mentioned earlier, creates things for us to be attached to and enjoy. In fact, even science is leading us towards the spiritual path of Buddhism, because all the pleasures, all the gadgets of pleasures and enjoyment that science creates, we will see ultimately can lead to us no pleasures throughout, because everything is born to decay and die, and we are also born to decay and die. It is only after realization in pleasure, our attachment to pleasure get really diminished and extinguished ultimately. That in that way, both the science and Buddhism are leading us in the same path to enlightenment, that is the realization of the real nature of things that are in touch with, that we are in association with. In science, that is done by knowledge. In Buddhism, that is done by wisdom. Knowledge is acquired, wisdom is inborn. We all have the inborn incapacity called wisdom for us to realize the real nature of life and ultimately realize the supreme bliss of nirvana.